Thank you. Well, hello and welcome everybody to today's program, I Scream, You Scream. We all scream for ice cream, or in this case, nice cream. My name is Marlene Atkin and I'm a health coach. It's a very hot day out there today, and the summer months, we all love to cool off with a frozen treat. So today we're just going to talk about some options with frozen treats that are a little bit healthier maybe than some of the stuff in the grocery, and ways to make some. So I'll just start with this little presentation and then we'll do a bit of a recipe, a couple recipes for you. So when we talk about standard ice cream, regular ice cream, the traditional ingredients in ice cream are basically milk, cream, and sugar, and then whatever flavorings or add-ins that you put in. A typical vanilla ice cream, basic ice cream that you're going to find in the store will have the ingredients that you see posted here. So you've got the milk, but then there's a lot of sugar that they add in different ways, not just regular sugar, but corn syrup and other types of sweeteners. The sweet cream buttermilk gives it the creamy flavor, and the whey is another milk product. Mono and diglycerides are actually a type of fat source, like a they are technically trans fat, but they're minimal. And then things like the guar gum and carrageenan, which is it's like a seaweed type product. Those are things to keep it stabilized and to get the creamy texture. So those are kind of the basics that you'll see in most store-bought vanilla ice creams that you're looking at. And some people may have issues with some of those ingredients, even milk in general. There's a big part of the population that is dairy sensitive to begin with, and it's really, really important to read your labels when you're looking at ice creams. I know there's an entire aisle filled with ice cream choices in the grocery these days, but here's an example of why we want to be looking at labels. So Breyers ice cream, which is a pretty popular label, these two containers look almost, exactly alike in general, but the ice cream on the left is actually not allowed to be called ice cream. They call it a frozen dairy dessert, and that's because you have to have, I think it's 10% milk fat or milk product in an ice cream to be called ice cream. And so they had to make a new label for this particular dessert, and it's just called a frozen dairy dessert. And there are definitely different ingredients in it. When they take out the fat and the milk fat and the natural ingredients, they do have to improve the flavor with other things. And quite frequently, they are different types of sweeteners. They still make an all natural ice cream. But even the all natural label is something that I know, when you see that, you really want to do a little bit more exploration, because all natural is what we call a health halo label. It's makes you think that you're getting like, a lot of people equate it with organic, and it is really not the same as organic. It is just a term that you can throw on anything pretty much and put it out there. So you always want to be looking at your labels just to take a look and see what the ingredients are in it, because it might make a difference if you're trying to eat cleaner or with less additives. And there's a lot of non-dairy choices. Hopefully you can see that. I have my chat box open. I don't know if it's in your way. There's a lot of non-dairy choices now in the ice cream aisle and frozen treat aisle as well. Oat milk ice cream, soy-based, even some of the bigger labels, Ben & Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs make them. I'm sorry, these labels are pretty hard to read, but essentially the kind of thing you want to look at here is, first of all, serving size, right? So not all of the serving sizes are the same. That one might be a third of a cup and the others are 2/3 or a half. So serving size relative to the calories. And then, of course, the things that you want to be looking at are things like sugar content, what kind of sugars are in there, how many different sugars are being used, if there are fats involved. So today we're going to be looking at making your own ice cream, and this is actually nice cream. And the basic ingredients that I'll use in the nice cream recipe is frozen fruit. So frozen bananas, they add a creamy texture, which is great, and they add a lot of sweetness. Some almond milk is what I'll use today, or other non-dairy milk, or even your dairy milk if it works for you, and then different mix-ins. So you can see it's a much more quote unquote natural recipe. And when we look at the comparisons between a traditional vanilla ice cream, for instance, and our basic nice cream, you can see where the differences start to add up. The calorie content is a little bit less than half. Fat is hugely reduced. You've got 0.5 on the banana ice cream, the vanilla ice cream made with bananas versus 15 grams, and 0 trans fat. And so the fat content in general. Sodium is also a big one. You don't really equate a lot of sodium with sweet treats, but quite frequently there's a lot in there. So there is often salt, particularly even if you make your own at home. There's recipes will call for a little sodium. So if you have an issue with trying to reduce your sodium, you want to be careful with that. Of course, bananas are potassium kings, so you're going to get a lot of potassium in your banana ice cream. And carbohydrates are about the same, but these are naturally occurring carbohydrates, and 19 grams of sugar compared to 28, so that's naturally occurring sugar. And because it's not a milk-based product, the protein is slightly lower. So it's all about what works for you. And that's not to say, a nice ice cream cone from the local ice cream store is ever an issue. It's just that if it's something, a treat that you like to have frequently, I know I always like something cold after I eat. You might want to consider making a few of these at home. So what I've got here is the recipes I'm going to make for you today. Let me move that chat box so you can all see it. So what I would suggest is, if you're interested in this, take a screenshot of the recipe screen here. Because I don't really have a way to send these recipes to you, but they're pretty simple. Basically, what you're going to be looking at is the frozen fruit, whatever frozen fruit you're using, and a little bit of milk to thin it, and then whatever flavors that you add in. So I'm just going to leave that up here for just a few seconds so you guys can take a screenshot if you want one. And hopefully that gave you enough time. And then I am using a couple of pieces of equipment that I have here at home. Certainly when making these homemade ice creams, a blender, high-powered blender is an option, or a food processor. I found this little mini food processor, which I love because it makes single servings. So those kind of items that you might have in your house. But I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite new toys that I keep at home, and this is called the Yonana's ice cream maker. So this is a great one too. So you'll get a chance to see that as well. So we're going to pop you back to that recipe screen just for a second. Well, like, any questions before I close out the PowerPoint, and then we'll just start making some nice cream. I've got chat box open if anybody has a question. Okay, doesn't look like it, but I'll keep that open during the presentation. So let's hit this here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so welcome to my kitchen, everybody, where the nice cream magic happens. So basically, the base that we're going to start with is always, for me with the nice cream, is usually bananas. So I have these bananas that are frozen. And what you want to do with your banana is, when it starts to get really browned up, like I would give these here maybe even another day or so. When they start to get really browned up, I'll take them out of the skin and slice them, lay them out flat on a baking sheet or parchment, and then stick them in the freezer for a few minutes, and then put them all in a baggie just so they don't all stick together. So what I've got here is just a tray of frozen bananas, and I took these out probably about 10 minutes or so ago, so that they soften up just a little bit. And so our first recipe I'm going to make today is that chocolate peanut butter ice cream that we have. So the base starts with frozen bananas, and this is probably about 2 bananas worth, but I'm using the mini processor, so I might not use all of them. Oh, well, yeah, I have room for all of them, so let me pop them all in there. So I've got the bananas in there. And you know, when you're making these recipes at home, you're really only limited by the ingredients you have and your imagination, because most of these ingredients that I'm going to use are, you know, things you might have in your house. So I'm using an all natural peanut butter. I love peanut butter, so I'm going to do a good solid full tablespoon in there. And then to thin the ice cream a little bit, I like to add, oops, forgot to bring it out, excuse me. I like to use a little unsweetened vanilla almond milk. So I'm going to start with just a couple of tablespoons, but this is one of those things that as you're making your recipe, you might need to add a little bit more in if you feel like it's not blending well. So I've got a couple tablespoons of that. And I'm going to make this a chocolate peanut butter ice cream. So I've got my cocoa powder here, just plain cocoa, filled with great antioxidants and no added sugar. It's made sweet enough for me. And I'm just going to do about a half a tablespoon of this cocoa powder. And again, to taste, whatever works for you, and pop that in there as well. So I got that all blended in there. And where's my cover? Here we go. So I got my cute little blender here. Make sure I got it in. And then basically, sorry for the noise, I'm going to hit chop first. Get it all chopped up. Wrap up those good bananas, and then we get a puree. So while I'm pureeing that, getting that all pureed up, you might have to open it up, scrape down the sides a little bit, puree it again. Now this is going to be pretty frozen and pretty cold, so once it's done, this is ready to eat. So you could add in all your other fun things, maybe if the kids are there, marshmallows or chocolate chips or anything else. Or if you need to put it away for later, you can put it in the freezer. You just want to take it out and let it come to room temperature a little bit, soften just a little bit so you can spoon it. So I just want to show you the texture here of my chocolate peanut butter nice cream. As I pull it out of here, I've got this like a soft serve chocolate texture. Let me get in closer to the camera here. So it's really like a soft serve chocolate texture that we have going on here. And that took all of 5 minutes and completely real natural ingredients in that. So this is my chocolate peanut butter. And as I said, there's a lot of different things you can add to that. I've got my little mini chocolate chips here. So before I serve that, I'll throw some of those on. Of course, the kiddos always love Jimmy's. And the other thing you could do with this too, if you wanted to make this even a little bit thinner, you could add a little bit more of the almond milk and then make these into pops for the kids, like fudgicle pops. So you would just thin it out a little bit more so that you could pour it or spoon it into these. I have these silicone popsicle molds. So you would spoon it into there and then refreeze it, and you'd have chocolate peanut butter fudgicles for the kids. So this is a great recipe that is a jumping off point for other treats that you can make as well. But there it is, our delicious chocolate peanut butter nice cream with some mini chocolate chips on top. So that's our first recipe. So that's the first thing. And I did that with my little, and that recipe, I used probably about 2 bananas worth. And I would say that made me probably about a cup and a half of ice cream with that one. So that's just with my little food processor. Now I'm going to rinse this out real quick. Because we're going to do a sorbet type ice cream with strawberries and not use the banana. The banana is great for creamy textured ice creams. If you didn't put the chocolate in, you could just have a vanilla banana in there. Some other options are using a sweetener like a natural maple syrup. If you like a maple walnut, you could add a little bit of maple syrup. If you do that, you want to reduce maybe the almond milk that's in by a little bit, maybe not start out with quite as much almond milk to begin with. and then add some walnuts, chopped walnuts to it, and you'd have a nice maple walnut ice cream treat as well. So I've got my little food processor back here, and now I'm going to do a berry ice cream. And so this one, I am going to still use some banana, but a lot less banana with this one. So I'm using maybe 3/4 to, or small bananas worth, maybe like a 7-8 inch bananas worth. So I've got the bananas in there, and then I've got these frozen strawberries. I've let them defrost just a little bit. They're still pretty frozen. I could have taken them out a few minutes earlier. And probably about a cup's worth of the strawberries as well. I'm going to pop that in there. That seems to be enough. That's all I'm going to fit. Starting out again with a little bit of almond milk, probably 2 tablespoons. You can use coconut milk, you can use oat milk, you can use regular dairy milk, whatever works best for you here. You could use strawberry milk, like a Hood strawberry milk, if the kids love strawberry and you wanted to use that as well. So I'm just going to get this started with chopping it up. With the chop mold first, just to get it all chopped up a little bit. And then we're going to go to a puree. And puree that. It looks like, oh yeah, it's blending. This one looks like it might need just a little bit more of the almond milk. And I'm going to scrape down the sides just a little bit here. We're going to go back to that. Get that blending up nice. And this is strawberries and the bananas together. So you get all the vitamins from the strawberries. You get all the vitamins from the banana. No artificial sweetener whatsoever. Unsweetened almond milk. And this is going to come out like almost like a sherbet texture, which is really fabulous. And you can use any combination of frozen fruits. You could do this with blueberries or raspberries or compound fruit. You can do this with even just a fruit mixture. I know some of the stores have like a complete fruit mixture. So let me take this out here, and I want to just spoon that out a little bit so you can see what we've got there. I found these great little ice cream cups at Christmas tree shop. We love the Christmas tree shop. Okay, so what you have here is a beautiful, the color's gorgeous, the look is gorgeous. And you've got this really fabulous, almost like a sherbet texture. So again, this would be great with any kind of a berry, frozen berry, or mango, anything along that idea. And the banana just gives it a little bit of a creamy texture. And there we go. We have that one ready to go. So those are my nice creams, easy enough to do. That's another one. If you were doing just strawberries and you wanted to add like a vanilla milk to it, you could do it in a blender. And again, use them in the pops, or even use them in freezer pop holders. I have these silicone freezer pop holders. So if I was making freezer pops or popsicles for the kids with these, now you also have ice pop molds that you can buy. Those are the actual little plastic bags, and you just need a funnel to funnel it in. I would do my frozen fruit with some kind of a liquid to thin it. If I wanted just a popsicle, it might be just a fruit juice, something like the strawberry. I could use my vanilla milk, and then pour those into the containers, let them freeze up, and the kids have a really delicious and healthy treat. Because if you've ever read the ingredients that are on the back of those freezer pops that you get in the grocery quite frequently, there really is very little fruit in there. There's just a whole lot of sugars and food colorings and those kind of things. So those are my first 2 nice cream recipes. And as I said, you could do them in a standard blender. You would probably just have to, if it's not a wide bowl on the bottom, you'd probably have to just stop it more frequently and kind of wipe down the sides. And it might become a little bit more liquid pureed. And if that's the case, that's quite all right. You could just pour that into your container and stick that back in the freezer for a little bit of time, just to refreeze a bit before you you use it. So those are the two. Now we're going to work on my fancy little Yonanas machine here. So this is a fun little gadget that I found not too long ago that I really love this one, and it's super easy to use. Yonanas is basically just comes apart. It's a bit, you know, it's a big base, but it has this chute here, and you can use banana as the base. If you're trying to make an ice cream, you could do banana in your frozen fruit, and it would come out down the chute. Or for me, today what I've done is I'm going to make a pina colada ice cream. So what these are this ice cubes I made. I had a can of full fat coconut milk that I had, and I poured those into ice cube trays. So I have these coconut milk ice cubes, and then I just have frozen pineapple with it. You could add a little lime zest to this if you wanted, flavor that up with something else. So basically what I'm going to do here is alternate, and I've let this fruit get a little bit soft, not too much, but I'm going to alternate between the pineapple and the coconut and pop that into the chute. It's going to be a little loud, so warning ahead of time. And then you just push that down the chute. More in as you go. Okay, and I'm going to shut that off and show you what we have here is a pina colada, very creamy ice cream mixture, because the cream from that coconut milk really makes it a nice ice cream, gives it like an ice cream texture. So that's our Yonanas. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the Yonana. I'm just going to pop this up here. Someone's got a question in chat. Kefir, yeah, sure, you could use kefir to thin anything, absolutely. I'll go over a couple of other options like that too, so thank you, that's a great question. So the Yonana is super easy. Once you're done, the base always stays nice and clean, and you just take this and unscrew it, and all of the parts can go into, excuse me, all of the parts can go right into the dishwasher. So it makes it nice and easy. So that's our Yonanas machine. So the thing with the Yonanas is you can do just frozen fruit with it and not use bananas, any kind of combo frozen fruit. That will come out more like a sorbet texture. And again, you take it out of the freezer, you want to let it sit just a little bit so that it comes to, it softens a little bit. I did this one the other day. If you want a creamy texture without using bananas, you can use frozen avocado now. So, so any kind of a frozen fruit bags, but they're now starting to sell these frozen avocado chunks, which is really great. And you can use avocado in your Yonanas or in your blender if you want to make it in your in the blender as well. You can use avocado for that. Here's another dish I made up all of this pina colada earlier and put them in the freezer. So I'll just let those sit. So the difference, for instance, I made that chocolate peanut butter ice cream, and the basic recipe is the bananas and the milk, the cocoa powder adds a little bit. But if you were going to do something similar, from Ben & Jerry's, which I love and I do eat sometimes, but it would be 470 calories for 2/3 of a cup. Whereas the chocolate peanut butter one that we made is probably going to come in somewhere around 200, 250 for that size. So I just wanted to give you that for a point of reference. In terms of the Yonana or even the other one, frozen avocado will make a great blend. It gives it a little bit of creaminess. The bananas are always wonderful because they add a natural sweetener. If you were doing something with avocado, you might want to add maybe a tad of either a maple syrup or like a honey, some other kind of sweetener. Vanilla extract is terrific if you're making the basic recipe. You can do just the bananas with some vanilla extract and a little maybe vanilla flavored unsweetened almond milk. Yonanas, yeah, the Yonanas is super fun. I'm going to show you guys the cover for it here. It's actually made by the Dole Pineapple Company, which is brilliant, I think, on their part. And you can find them on Amazon. There are different levels of them, but not super expensive. It's a big piece of equipment, but if you've got, you know, a bunch of ice cream lovers in your house and you want to reduce some of the calories and make your own, it's a fun thing and the kids love to do it. So our bases for the Yonanas, your banana, your avocado, your frozen coconut milk, and you could even use just coconut cream. Actually, it didn't, if I was doing it in the food processor or the blender, I wouldn't necessarily have to freeze this, the coconut milk. I would maybe do a can of coconut cream with just all frozen pineapple and get that same texture. The pineapple would be cold enough to hold the texture. So I would maybe do, you know, intermittent, feed this in until I get the texture I want. So some other add-ins, cocoa, peanut butter, coconut is a great thing to use. And as I said, if you want to make more like popsicle treats, you can always thin any of the recipes down even more and pour those into popsicle molds. Or if you thin them enough, or if you use a really watery fruit, like a watermelon, for instance, or just the frozen fruit, you can thin that out slightly and use those in freezer bags. So there's all kinds of really fun frozen treats that we can make right here in your own kitchen, probably with a lot of ingredients that you already have on hand, and enjoy some nice cream instead of ice cream. So I'm going to pop in here to see if there are any questions. Yeah, the Yonanas machine is really a fun little machine. And as I said, pretty easy to use and pretty easy to clean. But if you want that creamy texture that you would get with more like an ice cream, you probably just want to make sure you're using something like a banana or coconut, frozen coconut milk, or frozen avocado to give you that texture. But if you want something that's more like just a sorbet, you could just throw in a combo of frozen fruits in there. For berry sorbet, mango sorbet, delicious, all of those things. So mixing them all up is terrific too. And the machine usually comes with a book that gives you all kinds of really fun recipes and combinations. They actually indicate that if you wanted to do like chocolate, you could do pieces of chocolate intermittent with whatever fruit you're using, so you get the chocolate swirl, or you could freeze little chunks of peanut butter in the freezer, in a ice cube tray or something else, and pop those in there if you wanted to flavor with peanut butter. So lots of different things you can do. Any other questions from anybody? I just want to give a minute at the end here in case anyone has a question. And then I'm going to get all my frozen treats put away, and we're going to have an ice cream party here tonight, or rather a nice cream party. I'm going to give it just a second in case anybody wants to pop in with a question. If not, thank you all for joining. Hopefully everybody's having a wonderful summer. And hopefully you get a chance to enjoy some cold treats yourself. Let's see. Great. Okay, well, I think we're hitting the hour. I don't see any questions up. So thank you all for joining, and see you again soon.